Hey guys, it's day 7 of our Who Was Martin Luther King Jr. read. Today you're joining me from my back patio because I am trying to get outside as much as I can. It's still a little chilly out this morning, but I just want to be outside, get some fresh air. So you're joining me outside. We are on chapter 5. We are halfway through because it was a little bit longer of a chapter, so we'll finish chapter 5 today. All right, so page 42. By the year 1960, the civil rights movement was spreading throughout the South. Black students and white students staged sit-ins and at lunch counters. Students would sit together at a whites-only lunch counter and wait to be served. Often, the police would drag them out, but the students never fought back when arrested. Sometimes people yelled and spit at the students. Some threw rocks at them. No matter how many students were put in jail, the next day others would go sit in at the same lunch counters. They kept on because the fight was something they believed in. Martin took part in the sit-ins. On October 19, 1960, he was arrested at a lunch counter in a department store in Atlanta. Over 200 students were arrested the same day. They were all taken to the Fulton County Jail. Martin told the judge that the sit-in pointed out racial injustices. He wanted to make people in Atlanta see how wrong it was to have whites only eating at certain places. He said, "I must honestly say that we firmly believe that segregation is evil." 5 days passed, and Martin and the students were still in jail. Black people in Atlanta were very worried. Finally, the store owners dropped the charges and everyone was set free. But many white people were still angry with Martin. They wanted him back in jail. On May 4th, 1960, the police stopped Martin in his car, just gave him a ticket for driving in Georgia with an Alabama's driver's license. Martin thought at worst he would just have to pay the fine in court. Instead, Martin was taken away, his legs put in chains, and driven to a state prison more than 200 miles away. The ride to the prison was long. Martin was hungry, he was thirsty, he was scared. When his followers learned what had happened to Martin, they tried their best to get him out of prison. They made calls to Vice President Richard Nixon and Senator John F. Kennedy, who were running against each other for president. So here's a picture of Martin getting arrested just for driving in the state with a different driver's license. Isn't that crazy? Just for doing that, he got arrested. And he thought he'd just have to pay a fine, but he had to go to jail for that. So here he is in jail thinking. Okay, so people were fighting and they were messaging Nixon and Kennedy, who at the time were running against each other for president. So this is a picture of Nixon. Okay. At first, neither man wanted to help. They were afraid of angering the white voters. When reporters asked Nixon about Martin Luther King Jr. being in jail, Nixon said, "No comment." Finally, one of Kennedy's friends convinced the senator to help. First, Kennedy called Martin's wife, Coretta. She was pregnant with their 3rd child, and she was very upset. John F. Kennedy told Coretta that he and his brother, Robert Kennedy, who was a lawyer, would do everything in their power to help Martin. So Nixon said, "No comment." Kennedy said, "We'll try to help you." Okay, so here's the picture of him. Robert Kennedy called the judge who had sent Martin to jail. He wanted to know why Martin couldn't post bail. Now, bail is money to the court that allows someone to remain free until the trial. So you can get out of jail and you're still have to go to court, but at least you're not in prison at the time. Okay? Now the judge agreed to set bail and Martin was freed. Kennedy's campaign workers printed millions of leaflets that said Nixon's "no comment" remark showed that he was a man without a heart. Martin's father, Martin Luther King Sr., decided to vote for Kennedy now. John F. Kennedy won the election that November. He was the first Roman Catholic president. Catholics in the United States had faced prejudice too. That was one of the reasons many black people voted for JFK. Perhaps his experience as a Catholic would make him more understanding of the problems of the race in America. All right, that is the end of chapter 5. So tomorrow we'll read chapter 6.